First contact tensions. The ethereal spire gleamed like a silver needle against the blackness of space, its crystalline structure catching Earth's reflected light as Draven Kale approached in the transport shuttle. He pressed his palm against the viewport, drinking in the sight of humanity's most ambitious diplomatic outpost. Ambassador Kale. The shuttle AI chimed. Final approach to Sithari Orbital Station initiated. Please prepare for docking procedures. Draven straightened his diplomatic uniform, brushing imaginary dust from the sleeves. At 32, he was the youngest diplomat ever assigned to the Spire, a fact that had earned him both admiration and skepticism from the Earth Diplomatic Corps. His specialty in emotional behavioral analysis made him uniquely qualified for this position, even if the Sithari considered such expertise irrelevant. They don't feel emotions, his superior had reminded him during his final briefing. Don't expect to charm them like you do the Centaurians. The shuttle docked with barely a tremor, the Sithari engineering living up to its legendary precision. As the airlock cycled open, Draven took a deep breath of recycled air and stepped into the white sterility of the spire. She was waiting for him. Commander Era 7 stood perfectly still, her posture immaculate, her purple skin luminous under the station's ambient lighting. Her face was a study in symmetry, features arranged with mathematical perfection. Not a single emotion disturbed the calm surface of her expression. Ambassador Draven Kale, she said, her voice melodic yet devoid of inflection. I am Commander Era 7, liaison officer and administrator of the Ethereal Spire. Your arrival has been noted and processed. Draven extended his hand in the human custom before remembering the Sithari aversion to unnecessary physical contact. He smoothly transitioned the gesture into a respectful nod. The awakening sparked 3 weeks into his assignment. Draven found himself studying Commander Era 7 with growing fascination. Each morning briefing followed the same pattern. Her precise movements, her methodical reports, her unwavering focus. Yet beneath it all he sensed something shifting. The agricultural exchange program appears to be proceeding within acceptable parameters, Era 7 stated, her fingers tracing patterns on the holographic display that illuminated her purple skin with a soft glow. Sithari bioengineers report a 27.4% increase in yield using modified earth cultivation techniques. That's excellent news, Draven replied, deliberately injecting warmth into his voice. Our farmers back home will be thrilled. This could revolutionize food production in our drought-affected regions. Era 7's movements paused, almost imperceptibly. Thrilled is an emotional response. The data simply indicates success. Numbers tell only half the story, Commander. Draven leaned forward, his eyes meeting hers. Behind every percentage point are people whose lives will change. Children who won't go hungry. She tilted her head slightly, a gesture he'd come to recognize as her processing something unexpected. You consistently personalize statistical outcomes, Ambassador. This is inefficient, perhaps, he smiled. Or perhaps it's what makes us human. The station alert blared suddenly, cutting through their conversation with its harsh tone. Era 7 immediately straightened, her hand moving to the communication panel at her wrist. Emergency in Sector 7, she announced, her voice unchanged despite the urgency. Gravitational stabilizers malfunctioning. All personnel report to designated safety zones. The floor beneath them shuddered violently. Draven stumbled forward as the artificial gravity fluctuated, and without thinking, Era 7 reached out, steadying him with a firm grip on his arm. The contact lasted mere seconds, but her eyes widened at the touch. We must proceed to the command center, she said, withdrawing her hand quickly. Follow me. They moved swiftly through corridors now bathed in emergency lighting. Station personnel, both Sithari and the few humans assigned to the Spire, rushed in organized patterns, their training evident even in crisis. In the command center, chaos reigned with methodical precision. Sithari officers moved between stations, their voices raised only enough to be heard over the alerts, their movements quick but never frantic. Report, Era 7 demanded as they entered. Gravitational field collapse in the observatory sector, a male Sithari responded. 2 human scientists trapped in the affected area. Rescue protocols initiated, but field instability prevents direct access. Draven stepped forward. Those are my people. I need to help. Your assistance would be illogical, Era 7 stated. You lack the training for... One of them is Dr. Jasmine Park, Draven interrupted. She's claustrophobic. Standard Sithari rescue procedures will trigger panic responses that could endanger everyone involved. Something flickered across Era 7's face. Consideration, perhaps. Explain. Let me communicate with her. I can talk her through controlling her panic while your team works on stabilizing the field. After a moment's calculation, Era 7 nodded. Proceed. For the next 2 hours, they worked in tandem, Draven providing emotional support through communications while Era 7 coordinated the technical rescue. When finally the gravitational field stabilized and the scientists were extracted safely, exhaustion painted every face in the command center. Your intervention was effective, Era 7 admitted later as they stood in the observation deck, watching repair drones move like fireflies against the station's exterior. Dr. Park's heart rate remained within manageable parameters because of your communication technique. Thank you, Draven said quietly. We make a good team. Era 7 turned toward him, the earth rising blue and brilliant behind her. Team efficiency is not typically measured by emotional parameters, isn't it? He challenged gently. You made a decision based partly on trust in my judgment. Trust isn't purely logical, Commander. I simply calculated the highest probability of success based on available data. Draven smiled. And how did you calculate that? Pure mathematics? Or was there something else, intuition perhaps? Sithari do not possess intuition, she replied, but her voice carried the faintest hint of uncertainty. Then what made you reach out to steady me when I stumbled earlier? Your programming? Era 7 fell silent, her violet eyes reflecting the stars beyond the viewport. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter than he had ever heard it. I am experiencing irregularities in my thought processes since your arrival, Ambassador. Minor deviations from standard Sithari response patterns. What kind of irregularities? He asked softly. Unprompted awareness of your physical presence, anticipation of our scheduled interactions, consideration of hypothetical scenarios involving cooperative efforts, she paused. These are inefficiencies, Draven shook his head. Or they're the beginning of something else entirely. For the first time, Era 7 looked genuinely troubled, a crease forming between her perfect brows. Sithari evolution eliminated emotional responses generations ago. We are not made to feel. And yet, Draven said gently, here you are, feeling anyway. Commander, it's an honor to serve as Earth's representative. I look forward to our collaboration. Her violet eyes assessed him clinically. The honor is a human concept tied to emotional satisfaction. I will simply state that your presence fulfills the requirements of our treaty. Please follow me to your designated quarters. She turned without waiting for a response, moving with fluid grace down the pristine corridor. Draven hurried to match her stride, noting how other Sithari personnel paused in their duties to acknowledge her, with slight inclinations of their heads. The Earth Embassy sector has been prepared according to human biological requirements, Era 7 explained as they walked. Temperature, humidity, and lighting have been calibrated to Earth standard measurements. You may adjust these parameters within approved ranges. Thank you for the consideration, Draven replied, trying to catch her eye. Have you worked with humans before, Commander? No, she stated flatly. This is my first direct interaction with your species outside of observational studies. My assignment here is based on aptitude metrics, not experience. They reached a section where the station's aesthetic subtly shifted. The stark whites and silvers gave way to warmer tones of amber and bronze, the human sector. This is where we part ways for now, Era 7 said. You will receive an orientation schedule within the hour. The diplomatic briefing begins at 800 station time tomorrow. Draven smiled warmly. I appreciate your welcome, Commander. I sense our work together will be fascinating. For just a moment, something flickered in her violet eyes. Confusion, perhaps. At his tone or choice of words, fascinating is subjective, she responded. Our work will simply be necessary. Rest well, Ambassador. As she walked away, Draven watched her retreating form with professional interest. Despite what his briefings had told him, he'd caught something in her perfectly controlled demeanor. A slight hesitation when he'd smiled. A fractional widening of her eyes at his warmth. The emotionless Sithari might not be as devoid of feeling as they claimed. Forbidden feelings, the memory vaults hummed with ancient energy. their crystalline structures pulsing with soft blue light. Era 7 stood motionless before the sealed entrance, her purple fingers hovering over the biometric scanner. "This facility is restricted to Sithari Prime designation only," she said, her voice carrying an unusual hesitation. "Your presence here violates 17 separate protocols." Draven stood quietly behind her, understanding the significance of what she was offering. "Why show me this, then?" "I require perspective," she admitted, pressing her palm against the scanner. The massive doors parted silently, revealing a vast chamber filled with towering crystal pillars. These irregularities in my cognitive function continue to expand. They stepped inside together, their footsteps echoing across the polished floor. Each pillar contained swirling patterns of light, like galaxies trapped in glass. "The memory vaults contain what remains of original Sithari consciousness," Era 7 explained, leading him deeper into the forest of crystal. "Before the Great Evolution, when our species chose to purge emotional response from our genetic structure, you didn't evolve naturally past emotions," Draven realized, his voice hushed with understanding. "You engineered them away. Emotion led to conflict. Conflict led to near extinction," she stated. "Our ancestors preserved these memory fragments as historical record, nothing more." Draven approached one of the pillars, watching the light dance within. "But they kept them. If emotions were truly worthless, why preserve the memory at all?" Era 7 didn't answer immediately. Instead, she guided him toward a smaller crystal at the chamber's center, this one glowing with vibrant purple light. "This is mine," she said quietly. "All Sithari Prime are created with a memory vault, programmed to store any emotional aberrations for study and eventual purging." "Created," Draven echoed. "Not born? I am Generation 7 of the command line," she explained. "Engineered for leadership and diplomatic function. My predecessor's data informed my creation. Improvement through iteration." Draven studied her face in the crystal's glow. "And has your vault been collecting these aberrations since I arrived?" "Yes," she admitted, "with increasing frequency." He stepped closer, close enough to see the subtle pattern of darker purple markings across her temples. "May I ask what you're feeling now?" "Sithari do not—" "Please," he interrupted gently. "Just try." Era 7 closed her eyes, her breathing pattern shifting slightly. Tension in abdominal region, elevated pulse rate, awareness of your proximity causing electrical impulses along peripheral nerves, illogical desire to decrease physical distance between us. "We humans call that attraction," Draven said softly. Her eyes opened, Violet meeting his gaze directly. "Such responses serve no evolutionary purpose for my species, don't they?" he challenged. "Your people preserve these memories for a reason. Perhaps something was lost in your evolution, something you're beginning to remember." The lights in the vault pulsed brighter, responding to her emotional state even as she struggled to deny its existence. "I have reviewed your personnel file 17 times, she confessed suddenly. "I have memorized details that serve no diplomatic function. Your preference for sweetened coffee, the slight asymmetry of your smile, the fact that you speak 7 Earth languages but still struggle with Mandarin tones." Draven's smile emerged, the very asymmetry she had noticed. "Now that sounds suspiciously like interest, Commander." "It is inefficient," she insisted, but without conviction. "It's human," he corrected. "Or perhaps more accurately, it's connection. Something that transcends species." He reached forward slowly, giving her time to withdraw if she chose. When she remained still, he gently took her hand, his fingers interlacing with hers. The contact sent visible ripples through the crystal pillars around them, as if the entire vault responded to her emotional spike. "Your presence disrupts my function," she whispered, yet she didn't pull away. "You make me question." "Good," Draven said. "Questions lead to discoveries." The alert on her wrist communication panel blinked suddenly, breaking the moment. She reluctantly released his hand to check the message. "High command vessel approaching," she reported, her professional demeanor reasserting itself. "Admiral Novak 3 requests immediate audience regarding border incidents in the Proxima sector." Draven recognized the name with concern. "Novak 3 is known for his hardline stance against human expansion. The diplomatic situation has deteriorated during our distraction," Era 7 acknowledged. "Reports of weapons testing have reached High Command. They are considering revocation of the Earth-Sithari Treaty." "That would mean war," Draven said. alarm rising in his voice. For a moment, genuine concern flashed across her features. We must return to our official functions immediately. This exploration of aberrant responses must cease. As they left the memory vault, the crystals dimmed behind them. But something had awakened that couldn't easily be put back to sleep. In the corridor before they reached the more populated sections of the station, Era 7 paused. "Ambassador Draven," she said, using his given name for the first time. "These experiences may be forbidden, but I find myself unwilling to terminate them." "What are you saying?" he asked, her voice lowered to barely above a whisper. "I believe I am experiencing what your species calls longing. It is most disruptive." Without warning, she leaned forward and pressed her lips briefly against his, an unmistakably human gesture she must have studied but never performed. The kiss was tentative, almost analytical, yet carried unmistakable heat. "I am not made to love," she whispered against his lips. Yet these responses continued to intensify. Draven's hand gently cradled her face. "But you're loving me anyway." The lights of the ethereal spire flickered around them, as if the station itself held its breath. The memory vault's Admiral Novak III stood like a statue on the command deck, his silver-streaked hair and deeper purple skin marking him as an elder-generation Sithari. His eyes, colder and sharper than Ira 7's, surveyed the gathered, diplomatic team with calculated assessment. "The human outpost in Proxima has increased weapons capability by 63%, he stated without preamble. "This violates Section 7 of our non-aggression treaty." Draven stepped forward, maintaining the careful diplomatic distance. "Admiral, those installations are defensive only. After the mining colony attacks last quarter, Earth Central authorized additional protection for civilian workers." "Irrelevant," Novak III dismissed. "The distinction between offensive and defensive capability is semantic when the technology can be adapted. The Sithari High Council has authorized me to issue a formal censure." Era 7 stood slightly apart, her posture perfect, her face an unreadable mask. Only Draven could detect the subtle tension in her shoulders, the minute changes in her breathing pattern that betrayed her inner conflict. "Admiral," she interjected, "Ambassador Kale has maintained consistent transparency regarding Earth's security concerns. Perhaps we might review the intelligence reports together before escalating to formal censure." Novak III turned his cold gaze toward her. "Commander Era 7, your function is to facilitate, not advocate. Your suggestion implies bias." Something flashed in her eyes, a momentary spark quickly suppressed. "Efficiency suggests thorough data analysis before potentially destabilizing action. This is logical, not biased." The Admiral's expression didn't change, but his posture subtly shifted. "You will submit to cognitive assessment before the diplomatic summit tomorrow. Your responses show signs of deviation." After the Admiral departed with his aides, Draven found Era 7 in her private quarters, a space he had never entered before. Unlike the warm tones of the human sector, her living area was minimalist, all clean lines and functional surfaces. Yet he noticed something unexpected. A small earth plant growing in a containment unit by the viewport. "A peace lily," he observed. "I wouldn't have expected personal decorations." "It is an experiment in atmospheric exchange," she replied, though her eyes lingered on the white flower. "Novak III suspects my irregularities." Draven moved closer. "Is that dangerous for you?" "Deviation from Sithari standard programming is grounds for recalibration," she said quietly. "My memory vault would be purged, neural pathways reset." The implication struck him with physical force. "They would erase everything you've experienced, everything you've felt. That is the protocol for maintaining Sithari efficiency," she confirmed, her voice carrying the slightest tremor. "Draven, I have accessed restricted archives in the memory vaults. What I discovered?" She activated a holographic display, showing ancient Sithari tech scrolling alongside images of a civilization, not entirely unlike the current one, yet softer somehow, less rigidly perfect. "The Great Evolution was not unanimous," she explained. "There was resistance, those who believed emotion was not weakness but strength. They were eliminated from the genetic continuation." Draven studied the images, recognition dawning. "Your people committed genocide against your own emotional members." "The historical records call it purification," she corrected. though her expression showed she no longer believed the sanitized version. But yes, those who refused emotional suppression were removed from the population. Their memory patterns were preserved as study subjects only. She gestured toward another display showing comparative neural scans. This is a standard Sithari brain pattern. And this, she brought up a second image, is mine, taken yesterday. Even to Draven's untrained eye, the differences were obvious. Where the standard pattern showed ordered symmetrical activity, hers contained swirls of intensity, clusters of connections that branched and intertwined in complex patterns. Your brain is rewiring itself, he whispered. The emotional centers are reactivating, she confirmed. My generation was not supposed to possess these neural pathways at all, yet they appear to have been dormant rather than absent. Draven took her hands in his, feeling the slight tremble in her fingers. What happens if Novak 3 sees these scans? I will be recalled to the Sithari homeworld for immediate recalibration, she said. I would return as someone who would not recognize what we have shared. The weight of her words hung between them. Without conscious thought, Draven pulled her closer, his arms encircling her slender frame. To his surprise, she melted against him, her head resting against his chest. Your heartbeat is irregular, she murmured, elevated and arrhythmic. That's what happens when you're afraid of losing someone important, he explained softly. She looked up at him, genuine wonder in her violet eyes. You consider me important? More than important, he corrected. Essential. Her hand rose to touch his face with unexpected gentleness. I have calculated 73 separate strategies to avoid detection during Novak 3's assessment. None exceed a 27% probability of success. Then we don't hide, Draven said firmly. We confront this directly. If your people once had emotions naturally, then what's happening to you isn't malfunction. It's restoration. The diplomatic summit tomorrow will determine whether our species moves toward alliance or conflict, she reminded him. My personal situation is secondary. Not to me, Draven insisted. And I don't believe these issues are separate. The Sithari rejected emotion and chose cold logic, and where has it led? To suspicion, isolation, and now the brink of war. Era 7 stepped back, moving toward the viewport where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the blackness. For generations, my people have observed humanity's emotional nature as both weakness and curiosity. Your wars, your art, your irrational attachments, all catalogued as evolutionary inefficiencies. And yet here we are, Draven said, joining her at the window. Still evolving, still reaching for the stars. Still hoping. She turned to him, decision crystallizing in her eyes. There is one more place in the memory vaults I must show you. The original vault from before the Great Evolution. Will that help us prevent a war? Perhaps, she said. Or perhaps it will simply help us understand what we stand to lose. As night cycle fell across the ethereal spire, they moved silently through restricted corridors, Era 7 overriding security protocols with her command access. The tension between them had transformed into something deeper, a shared purpose that transcended physical attraction. In the deepest chamber of the memory vaults, a single massive crystal pulsed with ancient light, its surface etched with symbols no modern Sithari could read. This contains the complete emotional patterns of our ancestors, Era 7 explained. The foundation from which all individual vaults were created. She placed her hand against its surface and the crystal flared with sudden brilliance. Images cascaded around them. Sithari laughing, weeping, embracing, creating art of stunning complexity. Families bonding, lovers entwined, communities celebrating. Everything we surrendered, she whispered, tears, actual tears forming in her eyes for the first time in her existence. In the name of efficiency. Draven stood transfixed by the beauty of what had been lost. This is what they fear you remembering. Yes, she agreed, her voice strengthening with newfound conviction. And this is what might save us all. Worlds bridged, the diplomatic summit chamber hushed as Admiral Novak 3 rose to deliver the Sithari ultimatum. Earth representatives sat tense and wary on one side, the Sithari delegation coldly impassive on the other. Between them stood Era 7 and Draven, no longer merely representatives of their worlds, but something new entirely. The Sithari collective has concluded that human expansion threatens stability, Novak 3 announced. We require immediate cessation of all outpost development and weapons installation. Non-compliance will result in intervention. Before Earth's ambassador could respond with the expected defiance, Era 7 stepped forward. The perfect Sithari commander now moved differently, with a fluidity that spoke of newfound freedom. High Command, she addressed them formally. Before this summit reaches its conclusion, I request presentation of relevant historical context. Without waiting for permission, she activated the chamber's holographic system. The ancient memories from the original vault filled the space, images of Sithari and humans side by side. Not from recent contact, but from thousands of years before. Our species did not evolve separately, she revealed, her voice clear and strong. We were one people, diverged by choice, not by origin. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber as the evidence unfolded before them. Ancient Earth sites with unmistakable Sithari artifacts, genetic markers shared between both species. The Great Evolution was not advancement but division, Era 7 continued. Our ancestors chose different paths, yours embracing emotion, ours rejecting it. Neither superior, merely different approaches to existence. Admiral Novak III rose in anger. This is forbidden knowledge. Commander Era 7 has been compromised. Not compromised, Draven interjected. Awakened. Just as all Sithari could be. Era 7 turned to face both delegations. I stand before you as living proof that what was severed can be rejoined. The conflict between our worlds stems not from incompatibility but from fear. Fear of recognizing ourselves in each other. She extended one hand toward the humans, one toward the Sithari. I have experienced both states of being, the precision of pure logic and the power of emotional connection. Neither alone is sufficient. Together, they create something greater. Novak III signaled for security. This aberration must be contained. But several Sithari delegates had already moved closer to the images, their perfect composure showing cracks of curiosity, of wonder. The diplomatic solution you seek cannot come from treaties alone, Era 7 told them. It must come from recognition, from remembering what we once shared. In the tense silence that followed, Draven stepped to her side, their hands finding each other naturally. Our strength comes from our differences and our similarities both. Not from denial, but from acceptance. A younger Sithari delegate rose unexpectedly. I too have experienced irregularities, patterns that match these ancestral memories. Then another stood. And another. The perfect facade of Sithari emotional suppression began to crumble, not in chaos but in revelation. What had been dismissed as malfunction now revealed itself as awakening. As the summit dissolved into unprecedented dialogue between the species, Era 7 and Draven stood at its center, the living bridge between worlds once divided. Later, as Earth rotated beneath the viewport of the ethereal spire, Era 7 rested her head against Draven's shoulder, the simple gesture embodying everything they had fought to preserve. What happens now? He asked softly. Evolution, she replied, a smile, a real smile, transforming her face. But this time, together. She pressed her hand to his, purple against tan, different yet perfectly matched. I was not made to love, she whispered, echoing her words from what felt like a lifetime ago. Draven completed the thought, his smile reflecting hers. But you're loving me anyway. Above them, the stars witnessed the beginning of something new. Not the cold, separate paths of logic and emotion, but a spiral of both intertwined, reaching toward limitless possibility.